You know the guy that did the Stanford's prison experiment, Philip Zimbardo?
Yeah.
So there was a TED talk about, I think 10 years ago now, where he talked about porn and video games rewiring men's brains and causing a crisis of masculinity.
Yeah.
And the idea was that basically that men are playing video games and watching porn too much. And as a result, they're not developing social skills. And he talks about things like porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Now, that's the thing. Like, a lot of Christian groups talk about this, whereas in something like Psychology Today, they said there's actually no evidence that there's any link to porn watching and erectile dysfunction. So we had to be careful with it. But he did do a very big study about video games and porn in men that use video games and porn to excess.
Yeah.
And when he's talking about excess, he's talking about people that are playing or watching porn or playing video games for 15 hours a day, which is
that's mad.
Mental levels.
Yeah.
So and I wonder, do you think it is a problem?
I think, it's definitely a problem. It would be kind of stupid of anyone in the industry to disregard it as a problem, because it's a freaking huge problem. But the problem lies in the reliance on it and the negative way that it is used as a crutch, more so than the porn itself, because it's same with games. People who play 15 hours of games every single day, every day of the week, that's not going to be healthy for your social skills, your mental health in general. But that doesn't mean that the games are bad. The games are I love playing video games, but I do it in moderation. I love watching porn, but I do it in moderation, except for when I'm editing, and then it's 10 hours a day because it's my own porn.
You will edit your porn for 10 hours?
Sometimes. With food breaks.
Okay.
And pee breaks.
In general, when someone talks about porn addiction or sex addiction, I've always been like, it doesn't exist. There's no evidence for it. It's not recognized as an addiction. But I do recognize that people get compulsive behaviors. And I spoke to a psychologist about this, and she definitely described it more as compulsive behavior. And I think people can use things as a crutch, or I've got a friend and he says he doesn't masturbate. And the reason he doesn't masturbate is because he feels if he did, he wouldn't go out and have sex.
Okay.
And he's the kind of guy that will have sex with anyone. And he's a good looking guy and he's very charming.
Yeah.
So he can meet very pretty girls. But if the opposite of that, he doesn't care. He just wants the sex, you know? So I've always wondered if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Myself, I prefer to watch porn, masturbate, whatever, and then, be selective about who I have sex with.
I mean, you fuck whoever you want. It's just your own thing, if you want to fuck whoever, cool. If you want to be more specific, then cool.
But yeah, I wonder if you don't watch porn, if it makes you less picky in your personal life. And that might not be a bad thing, because when you're watching porn or when you're exposed, because for me, Instagram is also porn. If someone's in bikini photos or whatever, it's you can jerk off to anything. But it's if you're jerking off to all these hot girls all the time, maybe you're not being realistic with what's attainable. And I also understand that maybe it's harder to be aroused by a real girl when you're masturbating to photoshopped girls all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I do get it.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's your expectations are then so much higher, but you can't expect whoever you're going to be with to meet up to expectations that 90% of the time are false.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm lucky that I meet a lot of models, whether in porn or normal modeling. And when you date them, they don't look like the photos.
Oh, fuck no.
People have so many marks and I'm saying problems, but you know what I mean? It's but it's nothing like their Instagram image.
Oh no, you saw me wake up from my nap earlier. You think anyone on Instagram thinks I look like that?
So yeah, it's like, so I do wonder if it is quite unhealthy in a way.
It's really difficult because as a person who enjoys making porn, and I have the people who I make customs for, I have such like a genuine connection with, where I'm like, they're older guys who are really lonely. They have a bit of spare income. They have this fantasy and they just want a video that's specific to that fantasy that fits what they fancy watching that month, that they can like watch on the weekends, watch in the evenings. And I'm like, I love that it can be utilized for that, and so that people can still enjoy their own sexuality and explore their fantasies through a way that they might not be able to do in real life. I love that. And so I understand that makes me biased, but at the same time, I'm like, and any kind of addiction is more so based on the addiction itself than what it is that the person is addicted to.
Yeah.
And I think the porn industry is blamed a lot more than other industries for the porn itself than for the actual...
video games too, like video games.
Yeah, video games as well.
Crime.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's like people aren't going to fancy restaurants and being like, my brother, he died of diabetes, right? Because he's fat, because he loves food, but you're still here making food. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't apply to other industries in the same way that it does porn and games.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfair in that respect, but because it has become such a problem, I understand it being looked at like that.
Yeah, I feel like both things can be true at once. It's like most people are probably not heavy users of pornography or heavy players of video games.
Yeah.
So those ones I think you can always like forget about. But I do think there's this big and significant proportion of the male population particularly, and like that's what Philip Zimbardo predicted in a way. He predicted like what everybody's talking about now is this crisis of masculinity. And okay, he's focused on video games and porn, but he did predict it, and his prediction has kind of come true.
Yeah.
And if you look at how males are performing in education, like they're just simply not going to university now. Like they're being way outperformed by women in almost every area of society. And it's not a bad thing, but it seems like men are performing less than they used to, rather than just because women have come up.
Yeah.
So ideally, like both would improve, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what we all want is equality at the end of the day. We don't want either gender identity, person, whatever, to be like so much better than the other because of their circumstances. That's not what anybody wants. So yeah, it's hard trying to pinpoint what affects things and why it affects things, and whether how society is as a whole. Oh, we're getting deep now, we're getting philosophical. How society is as a whole is why people are addicted to video games and porn, is because they need to drown out the, people who are forced to do a 9 to 5, and it's like they got to do that for the rest of their lives, and that shit's fucking depressing. And with mental health, they just want to detach, and having a way to detach that's so accessible is a problem, but there's a lot of stuff that's more of a problem that's underlying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, you can get addicted to gambling. Like gambling is a recognized addiction. But at the same time, like there's nothing you're doing to your body that makes you dependent. So so if you can be addicted to maybe gambling's not an addiction. I don't know. Maybe is it? Like I don't know if I'd call it addiction, but I was like a problem drinker. And, with any like compulsive behavior, like the problem wasn't the alcohol or me drinking. The problem was that I wasn't happy with my life.
Yeah.
So I was like medicating myself, and maybe that's what people are doing with porn and video games.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but this group of people.
Yeah.
A significant group of people, like just curing. It's like an easy way out. Not easy way out, an easy way of like getting satisfaction.
Yeah. And it's like, it's scary to think that the help that a lot of people get, specifically men, and it's because this whole masculinity thing, you know, like there are guys who won't go to therapy because they're told that, you know, they just need to man up or whatever. And I'm like, if you give people the mental health help that they need, then maybe they'll...
Very difficult. Like, I am lucky that I can go to a private therapist if I want.
Yeah.
When I was struggling, I thought, okay, let's get some help. But it's like, do you want like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist? And then like what type of these therapists or a counselor? And it's so overwhelming that I honestly didn't know what to choose. And I'm like a naturally suspicious person. So I didn't want to be like taken in by a charlatan, you know?
Yeah.
So like I'd rather fix myself than just give someone money for bullshit.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But it was so overwhelming that it was...
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who, like, although porn addiction is not, and sex addiction are not recognized by like the American Psychiatric Association or whatever it's called, there's a lot of people that will help you with it, and they've got no training, no certificate whatsoever. Yeah. They're just exploiting a feeling that you have, and they might just be exploiting your guilt around sex.
Yeah.
Or like shame you have around sex.
Although I guess even without professional training, they'd still kind of treat it in the same way as they would other compulsions and dependencies with like CBT and stuff like that. Obviously, I like that I have to specify cognitive behavioral therapy, not cock and ball torture, because every time I write CBT, I think cock and ball torture in my head. But maybe that too, if that's your cup of tea, you know, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's a complicated subject, like really complicated.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But what's our conclusion on this?
I know, we went just real deep.
Yeah. It's something I'm going to be talking about a lot on future episodes as well, I think.
Yeah, good.
So,
because it needs to be spoken about, and people need a place to come and not only discuss things with other people, but hear people discussing it and not either default to listening to cunts like Andrew Tate. Sorry.
Yeah. Not TikTok friendly, that word.
Oh, sorry. Cut that out. I said people like Andrew Tate.
Cute, I think you said.
Cute. He wishes. Yes, I apologize.